Road test coming up for you shortly, but let's kick this video off with a glove test. Check this out. So touchscreen infotainment system here, touch activated climate control system here. So we've got these glossy touchscreen surfaces. Let's see if they work with our gloves on. And that's going to be a no for the central infotainment system here. Whether you're using the on-screen buttons here or these touch-sensitive sort of hard buttons on the side, no luck with the gloves. Let's try the climate control system out here. Idea with this is if we want to turn the temperature up, we just swipe this way. And that seems to be working, and to turn it down, we just swipe this way here. That climate control console is much more sensitive to your bare finger, but it does still work with your gloves on here. Let's try these buttons up on top. Yeah, so no problem with the heated seats or any of these controls up here. So if you've got your gloves on, that is a no to the infotainment system and a yes to the climate control system down there. This infotainment system is one of my favorites out there right now. Let me show you why. To the market's latest crossovers, this stretch of highway, which many of us Northern Ontarians call the field cutoff, quickly separates the good from the great when it comes to handling, steering, and dynamics. Specifically, the narrow lanes, soft shoulders, plentiful corners, and heavy transport truck traffic means a vehicle that responds precisely and mitigates driver workload tends to be just the ticket for a rewarding drive. On northern highways like this, you want a vehicle that responds faithfully, leaves the driver no second guessing, and doesn't wear them down or bore them into fatigue. That's especially important during moose season. This is one of my favorite test drives in my neck of the woods, and I managed a few passes of the field cutoff during a recent test drive of the 2023 Volkswagen Tiguan Comfortline R-Line Black. That experience led me to count this tester amongst other recent favorites based on this drive route, including the Mazda CX-5 Sport Design Turbo, and more recently the Honda CR-V Touring Hybrid. I'd happily count the Tiguan amongst my list of favorites, largely thanks to its handling, polish, calibration, and response. In my favorite crossovers on this particularly twisty stretch of highway, the steering makes it easy to place the vehicle precisely within the long sweeping corners the first time, using small inputs with minimal need to readjust. My favorite crossovers here have suspensions calibrated to provide a good feel of the goings-on between the tires and the surface of the road, and to take a set quickly on corner entry, which keeps the body flat and stable more of the time. So the result from the driver's seat is a reduced workload at the steering wheel, flatter and more stable handling, reduced driver fatigue, and improved confidence. And though handling and cornering are not the most important attributes to most crossover shoppers, the Tiguan is one of those crossovers that makes them very easy to appreciate in this setting. So how much is a Volkswagen Tiguan and which model should you buy? For 2023, Tiguan pricing starts at $36,332 Canadian, with standard turbocharged power and 4Motion all-wheel drive. Standard equipment includes an 8-inch digital cockpit instrument cluster, Android Auto, Apple CarPlay, heated front seats, 17-inch wheels, and the front assist safety feature with autonomous emergency braking. $40,332 gets you the Comfortline, adding 18-inch wheels and 8-inch touchscreen infotainment system, smart key, wireless Android Auto and Apple CarPlay, leather seating, and more. My tester, the Comfortline R-Line Black, steps up the sporting appeal with 18-inch wheels, enhanced exterior styling elements with black trim, aluminum door sills, a panoramic sunroof, and customizable interior ambient lighting. Topping the model range from $46,832 is the Tiguan Highline R-Line, with 20-inch wheels, an around-view camera system, Fender audio, heated front and rear leather seats, and more. The Comfortline trim grade should serve most shoppers well with all modern must-haves, and the $3,000 step into the R-Line Black, like my tester, should provide a solid return on investment for the shopper after a more athletic experience from their Tiguan, with the power panoramic sunroof and ambient lighting package generating further appeal. Engage Sport Mode from the Drive Mode selector, and the Tiguan's steering heavies and quickens, allowing drivers to steer with their wrists. In this hyperlapse footage, you'll notice how little work my hands are doing at the wheel to navigate the winding highway. This is a good visualization of how easy the Tiguan is to drive. The steering is light on center, quickly heavies when an input is applied, and points the Tiguan's nose confidently into bends as the suspension quickly sets, and keeps things feeling planted and bolted on. Mid-corner bumps do little to upset the machine's composure, just keep your eyes up and your next corner front of mind, and it steers and handles with a densely athletic feel that reminds me of a luxury sports sedan in how it's both heavy and reassuring, but also eager at your fingertips. Driving enthusiasts will appreciate how well the Tiguan's steering and handling reward your smooth and forward-looking driving, and let you direct the machine around with often mischievously small steering inputs and encouragingly tidy handling. So if you'll frequently travel via winding highways and back roads, I think you'll appreciate the feel dialed in here, where you're seeing some of the Tiguan's best work. During highway cruising, I noted good control of road and suspension noise levels and appreciated a solid, composed feel beneath me. At higher speeds allow for some wind noise, specifically from the upper areas of the windshield. Though I had no complaints about highway ride comfort, some competitors do deliver a ride with less wind noise at speed. By 110 kilometers an hour or so, I had to raise my voice a little for a Bluetooth phone call, or conversation with a nearby passenger. On the roughest back roads I test crossovers on, the Tiguan impressed with strong control over body motions, keeping the ride from getting too bouncy and dramatic, and keeping the vehicle body and occupants more stable more of the time. On these worst-case scenario testing surfaces, the Tiguan's ride can feel brittle and choppy at times, though dramatic body motions and noise levels are very nicely controlled. The brakes feel polished and precise too, with a strong initial bite available from a light press on the pedal, and a reassuring buildup of stopping force with minimal leg work. You can easily stop the Tiguan quickly using a flick of your ankle and not your entire leg. What engine is in the 2023 Volkswagen Tiguan? It's one of Volkswagen's most advanced, the EA888. With turbocharging and direct injection, this four-cylinder generates 184 horsepower and 221 pounds of torque, and that's using regular-grade fuel. Expect pleasing pulling power and an advantage in low to mid RPM throttle response compared to non-turbocharged competitor engines. The EA888 is expert at making plenty of power at revs so low, the engine hardly sounds like it's working. Chain-driven dual overhead cams operate variable intake valves whose duration can be modified. In light load situations, the intake valves open only for shorter duration and with less lift. Under load, the intake valves can be opened more deeply and for longer durations to maximize power. This engine is also expert at ensuring a high level of fuel and air mixing within the combustion chamber. A non-symmetrical flap in the intake manifold causes air to swirl and become turbulent before entering the cylinders. When it does, that turbulence helps rapidly disperse fuel very evenly throughout the combustion chamber, from edge to edge as it were, for more efficient combustion. Fuel is direct injected at over 3,600 psi into that swirling, turbulent air mass, and the direct fuel injectors can spray up to 3 injections of gas during each intake stroke, enabling further blending of the air-fuel mix for optimal combustion. From the driver's seat, the bulk of the pulling power is concentrated heavily between about 2,000 and 5,000 RPM. The Tiguan's powertrain has several strengths and a few weaknesses too. On the plus side, pulling power is smooth and eager from even a light throttle press at highway speeds and beyond. With the engine spinning away at 2,000 revs or more, the turbocharger kicks in with minimal lag to surge the Tiguan along smoothly and strongly, and downshifting is typically optional unless there's a big hill to climb or a quick pass is required. The powertrain is at its smoothest once you're up to speed and moving. In around town driving, and perhaps especially in slow-moving traffic, it can feel clumsy and awkward at times. Specifically, when adjusting throttle inputs at low revs, drivers may notice some subtle lurching, wobbling, or vibrations from the driveline, most often when shifting up and down at low speeds. Throttle response can also prove somewhat inconsistent in certain low-speed situations. Specifically, pleasing pulling power can require a nearly full throttle stomp from lower speeds, and sometimes at parking lot speeds, throttle response feels too aggressive, almost startling. So no issue cruising the highway, but around town and in parking lots. My testers sometimes felt lazy when I expected snappiness, and had a hair trigger throttle when I was expecting it to be more gentle. So shoppers who will do a lot of lower speed driving in city and highway commuter traffic, for instance, do have smoother driving and more fuel efficient options for the job. For instance, hybrids like the CR-V, Sportage, and RAV4 shine here for their ability to use electric motors to smooth out power delivery while saving fuel in the process.
Alright, so 5'10", 200-pound guy. Here is my comfortable seated driving position. Notice nothing's cramped around the knees here. I have still got well over 2 hand widths, I'd say, in terms of headroom with that sunroof overhead. Controls are logically laid out, clustered into separate zones where they're easy to manipulate. I've got plenty of at-hand storage here, 2 proper cup holders, pen holder there, nice deep center console in here, little charging area for your phone, wireless charging pad down there, 2 USB-C ports, and a power outlet. And all I would say for someone of my size, you're going to find this to be pretty roomy inside. Nothing is too cramped or crowded, but let's see how I would fit in the back seat directly behind someone of my size. Big door opening, and as you saw there, no need to duck. This is high enough up. Before I close the door, I'll draw your attention to this. Look how wide that opens, sort of making the best possible use of this door opening here. So a nice easy pass in and out without ducking. More or less, you're just sliding over into your seat. First thing I noticed sitting back here for the first time, look at this knee room in front of me. That's 1 hand width there, almost a second one in front. So lots of leg room if you're sitting behind someone of about my size. We've got these straps back here we can pull and actually recline these seats a little bit if we like, if you're so inclined. Plenty of space to stretch out and kind of relax and socialize back here. We do not have a flat rear floor, as some competitors do. There is still this hump here in the middle. 2 proper cup holders in there if we need them. A little bit of storage down here, another USB-C charging port, and a power outlet here. So in all, for 4 average-sized adults, I'd say absolutely no issue in here in terms of space. Headroom, knee room, all generous, easy to get in and out of both rows of seating. And that's exactly what you're looking for in a crossover that's going to haul 4 full-sized adults around. Let's take a quick look into the cargo area. No power tailgate on this particular tester, so we're doing this the old-fashioned way. There's our standard camera kit, camera bag tripod, camera bag number 2, gym bag there. We do have these handy cubbies here over on the side. Those are good for washer fluid, smaller bags, anything you want to keep intact there. We can pull these levers. If we look here and in the same place over on the other side, we've got these levers here to just pull those seats down. So I'll do this one. Down that goes about halfway. We'll do the other one here too. Just a tug on this little mechanical latch, kind of give it a bit of a rip there. It goes down. Let's just go back around the sides so we can see how flat these seats fold. What you can see here, not a completely flat surface. In some competitors, Honda CR-V being one in recent memory, these form a flat surface. Here there's a bit of an angle, so take that into consideration depending on what you're loading in here in terms of cargo. But in all, that's a long, wide cargo area, and in particular, relatively low height to that cargo load floor, meaning it's going to be easy for smaller grocery helpers to help load things in and out, and easy for your family canine to jump in and out of the back too.
How does the Volkswagen Tiguan's fuel economy stack up? In combined driving, the Tiguan will use between 9.4 and 9.8 liters of gas for every 100 kilometers you drive, depending on the model grade you select. The R-Line models are slightly thirstier. And assuming you drive 25,000 kilometers per year and pay $1.50 for a liter of gas, you're looking at an annual fuel bill of about $3,500 to $3,700. Based on that same math, a comparable Honda CR-V will use about $375 less gasoline per year, while the CR-V's hybrid engine will use about $1,125 less gas per year. A comparable Toyota RAV4 will use about $340 less fuel per year than the Tiguan, while the RAV4 hybrid will use about $1,275 less. A comparable Nissan Rogue or Subaru Forester will use about $400 to $450 less gas. The Hyundai Tucson is virtually a tie. Less than $40 separate the annual fuel cost between these two machines, although the Tucson Hybrid will use about $1,140 less fuel per year than a comparable Tiguan. So while some competitors deliver better fuel economy and smoother driveline operation in certain situations, it is hard to argue with the Tiguan's sense of style. After a week at the wheel, I appreciated my tester's sense of upscale flair and on-the-road presence fitting of an up-level product. The handsome looks, athletic stance, and recently updated styling elements see a machine that's detailed, trimmed, and decorated tastefully from top to bottom, tip to tail. The sense of style carries on inside too. A digital instrument cluster and proximity-detecting touchscreen infotainment interface, combined with generous use of premium materials and gloss finishes, to create a modern, clean, organized, and techy-looking cockpit. Handy storage is ample around the driver, the infotainment system is vivid and logical, and the chubby leather-wrapped steering wheel and metal pedal covers provide some sporty signals to enthusiasts. Add in the playful use of texture, shapes, and gloss, and you've got a cabin that's easily amongst the segment's most rewarding and original to look at, I think. So very important on your test drive that you check the settings of two controls down here. Check this out. First, we've got the drive mode selector here, and by rotating the dial, we've got different terrain modes. That's custom, off-road, on-road, and snow. There's also the driving mode, which is the little button here in the middle, and when we press that, we have the option for eco, normal, sport, and custom. You can select them here on the screen, or you can also select them just by pressing the button down here on the dial. These driving modes can have a major effect on the feel, the response, and the overall driving character of the Tiguan, and if you're not getting the throttle response that you're expecting, make sure you're using that sport mode. There is a major difference between eco, normal, and sport in this case. Now, those you select with the drive mode dial and button. The other setting to keep your eye on relates to the gear shifter here. So we can see that pattern up on top. We've got D and S. By pulling down on this, we're changing from drive, which is the regular shifting pattern, to sport, which is a more aggressive shifting pattern. So by making sure that you've got the drive mode selector in sport mode and the transmission in sport mode as well, you'll get the best sense possible of the performance available from this machine. This infotainment system is one of my favorites out there right now. Let me show you why. We'll get you right up close in there for a look at the graphics. You can see clean and sharp, easy to read at a glance. Screen is highly responsive to your fingertip in terms of animations and response time. There's not much separating the user experience on this infotainment system from what you might be used to in a high-end tablet. Menu structure and settings, fairly easy to find your way around in here. Just a simple home screen with two screens we can swipe across like this. That's your main functions here. We can pull down from the top for some additional functions and settings there. Send that back up if we don't want it. Android Auto fires up in just a second or two. Great graphics on that. So fairly simple, logical, easy to find your way around. You're going to feel like an expert at this system after just a couple of minutes of practice. But one of my favorite things about this is actually visible in the bright sunlight down here. The camera right up close there for you. You see that little strip along the bottom here? It's actually a proximity sensor, so if you watch down on the bottom, we've got minimized sort of display clutter down there. But when we reach for the screen without touching it, you can see that additional information popping up here. Take your hand away, and after just a moment, that's going to disappear. So by using a sensor that detects your hand incoming to the screen, show you that one more time here, that other stuff popping up there, you've got reduced display clutter when you don't need it and additional context for those different settings when you do. So a little more context and detail for you on the steering wheel mounted controls here. Here's a closer look. You can see here we've got a gloss black plastic piece of trim that's got a little bit of a texture to it. Nice clean backlighting on there. So if we zoom out and take this interior as a whole, right, we've got this digital display screen here for your instrument cluster, another nice display screen there for your navigation system and infotainment. And with that backlighting and that smooth glossy finish, these steering wheel mounted controls really tie in and give you a high-end flair. Trouble is actually using them at times can be a little bit fiddly. Here's what I mean. So this is all one button here, and although we've got the texture to kind of guide us around and give us a feel of where we are, while you're doing that, some of these functions don't actually require you to press in. So as you're feeling your way around, trying to figure out what button to press, you're actually manipulating stuff up here on the screen. Same thing on this side with the cruise control and so on, right? I can click the volume button this way to turn the stereo up, or I can also just gently slide my finger left to right or right to left to turn that up and down. So you're gonna make a lot of mistakes. It can be frustrating at times. It looks fantastic, but a little more complicated in use than it needs to be.
Don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button down below if you learned something new. I'm Justin Pritchard, and until next time, take care and drive safe.